All right, thank you for joining again and welcome. This is the bit where I will just kind of show you how the data generator routine has been created in Prep. It's fairly simple, so no rocket science here. But let's show you what we've done. Simply have a dimension A, make edits here, possibly filter for industry, right? So one of the videos I mentioned that maybe I'll have additional industries and their categories entered in here. So once you have the data, you could simply filter for an industry in here. That one actually happens to be, I think, in dim B. There we go, but you get the idea, right? So you could filter the data, so you only generate the data for your industry. I should rename this filter, possible filters for your use case. There we go. All right, let's save that. So that's what we're going to do. All I have done in here is just created a dummy field that will just help us create some Cartesian products, right? So I like the value 99, so I end up using that. Doing the same thing to the second dimension. So create a field called dummy B, a field called dummy A in here. And then if I go to Cartesian, I'm simply saying dummy A equals dummy B, which means for each row, go and create more rows from the other dimension. If I were to expand that out, you can see here we already are creating combinations of those two dimensions. That's all we have in here. If we go further down, then we're using the third dimension, which is the time dimension. Again, if I wanted to make any changes, I could, but I've created another field called dummy time, and we're doing yet another Cartesian product, right? So you want to be mindful of how many distinct rows you will have. So maybe we could generate millions of rows here, but that's something for you to decide how much you want. You can see within a couple of seconds we create 5,000. We could push this and I could do a performance test as well, but that's another time, another day. For another time, another day. Anyway, we are going to create a total of 5764 rows using this Cartesian across 3 different dimensions. What do I have next in here is how I am essentially splitting that 100 million, if you will. So if I go to aggregate and show you, this actually shouldn't be adjusted weight, but anyway, all I have here is I am doing an aggregate so I can get the sum of all the adjusted weights in here. Actually, no, that makes sense, right? So I am taking all the weights across all the different categories and I'm creating a sum of it. So we did skip that. So let's quickly go back into this and show you what we have in here. So these are the 3 different weights for each one of those dimensions. So these are coming from the 3 different sheets, and I'm basically just multiplying all of those and doing a sum of that. So essentially, you know, for that 100 million, how many units do I divide that into? And that's what that number is. I should divide that into a 245 million units. So that's what that sum is. And then we join it back with the Cartesian product. And what we are doing in here is we are getting a chance to create, oopsie, and go back in here. Actually in here, we just renamed the field to call total weights. So that's 245. This is where we join it back to the Cartesian product. Dummy field joined with dummy field. So we just get all of the data in here. So that's not actually going to create any data explosion in this step because this is, we're simply getting one row in here. If you come back to the calculated field, now I'm creating a percentage of total for each row. So adjusted weight divided by total weights. So that was that 245 million units. And this is the adjusted weight for each row. I don't think I showed you what that adjusted weight looks like. So let's just quickly show you that. Oh, I think we did. Right, so that's the adjusted weight at each row. Weight times weight 1 times weight 2. And that's all that is, right? So now we go further and look at what we're doing here. So this is where we're joining to that one row that says we need to split that 100 million. Again, we have another dummy field, but because it's one row, there's no data explosion in here. We could have that if we're creating multiple metrics, so you could do that as well. And this is where we just create the final value. So we are saying percentage of total times the transaction total, right? So the transaction total was the column coming straight from our data set right here, right? So that's the transaction total. So now that we have percentage of total, we're just basically multiplying that, and I should get a value for each. And now we are going to make sure that we add some signal to it. So that was the base field that we added called measure final value here, right? So the percentage of total for this row is this 0.00023, and then splitting that 100 million, it will give us $23,619. Now when we add the signal, in signal, all we're doing is we have a join. And the join basically is across all three dimensions: dim A code, dim B code, and time code. And we are joining a left join, so we still get 5764 rows. And then if I come into calculated field, I'm saying if the change weight, right? Let's go back and see what that is. If there is a value in here, then we want to use that. If there isn't, then we just kind of assume that that's 1. So if we have a value, then use that, otherwise use 1. And then in here, we take that original value that we got, which was measure final value, and then we're multiplying it with the adjusted change weight, which is what we just looked at, right? So if it's 0.53, use 0.53, else use 1. This was the value without the signal, right? So, and that's all there is to it, right? Fairly simple. Going to go and just remove a bunch of fields that I don't want. I do remove the fields individually because sometimes I need them back. So for now, I just kind of do this, and that's it. And now we have signal data being pumped into Excel. I am doing create table. So if you want to create multiple signals, you could just simply use append to table, right? So run it one time and then change something in your data set, run it again. Now you have two different types of signals. But right now I'm just creating one, so I'm creating table, which means every single time it's kind of written fresh. So it deletes the table and recreates it. That's basically it, right? So we are going to just run this. She'll take a few seconds. And there we have it. So should be done. There we go. And if I were to come, see what that looks like, and that's this file right here, output. And open that up, and see, there we go. So we should see these values match, except for those 10 or 15 rows or 12 different signal points, right? So if I look at LATAM 3 March 2011 travel, let's see what that looks like. So we go to LATAM, and 2011, okay, we should just need March, and that was for travel, right? So we are going to remove all of that and say travel, and these two values don't match. One is much smaller than the other, half of it. That makes sense. 3821 instead of 8306. That makes perfect sense. All right, cool. And this output file is what we have pointing using this workbook. So if I were to refresh that, actually nothing will change here, or would it? No, we've already done this, so nothing will change here, but that's it. That's what we've done behind the scenes. Feel free to add more to it or more dimensions, and have fun with it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching. Bye.